Namaskar. I am one of Didi Ma Shivani's disciples, Sadhak Devasheesh. Ma has told all of us about Mother Indira Devi Ji and Dadaji many a time in our spiritual gatherings, also known as satsang. We always remember them, especially on their birthdays, Mahasamadhi days, and Janmashtami. With love and reverence, we celebrate their special days always. I will be reading a few parts written by Didi Ma in this video as well.
In my spiritual journey, I've had a special privilege of encountering very many great spiritual beings. Why that is so? Perhaps because right from the beginning, I had a very special regard for all those who loved divine and made him their all in all. I also read a whole bunch of books on such beings and by such beings, and found them teeming with infinite wisdom that appealed to me intensely. Among them, Ma Indira Devi Ji was a highly influential figure who exemplified divine love, surrender, and total self-giving in her daily life as well. I've always held her in the highest of esteem. This opportunity to be able to relive my scant time spent with her in Pune is God sent. Ma, I recall the time when I was preparing to leave Pune for the US. You said, "Write to me." Ji, I said. Ji means yes, a respectful yes to great beings, gurus, elders, or parents in Hindi. You asked, "How will you end the letter?" I was still trying to understand the question when you spoke again. "Write, with all my love, your child." Ji Ma, I answered. So here is your child, Ma, with all her love, writing whatever she can and offering it at your holy feet.
After lunch, we were just a handful of people sitting in Ma's room upstairs. I had arrived in Pune only a couple of days ago. The windows of the room were open. Every time the clean and somewhat cool autumn breeze entered the room, the shadows of the huge burrflower trees appeared to be dancing. Already I had noticed a mysterious atmosphere in the room, but at this time of the day, when all was quiet, in Ma's presence there used to be an unmistakable air of undefined mystique. Just a few of us would sit by Ma, silently gazing at her, waiting. She might say something. Even if she remained silent, it felt like as if we had heard what we wanted to hear. Once Ma asked me, "Do you have paper and pen on you?" I opened my purse to peek into it for pen and paper. I knew it wouldn't be there because it was never placed there. Ma spoke again. Dadaji used to say, in order to write anything exactly, one should take notes as soon as possible. Otherwise, later, human recollection can falter. I felt surprised at her comment. Why is she asking me to make notes? I have no intention of writing anything. While telling you this, I am smiling now. And perhaps you too are amazed at the prescient perception of these great beings. I did start to jot down some things after retiring to my room after this incident. While in Berkeley, sampling some books in a bookstore, I noticed some books placed separately on a corner table. The sign there said they were on sale due to suffering a bit of damage in transition. One book attracted my attention. The title was Pilgrims of the Stars. I leafed through it, liked what I saw, and bought it. The subject had to do with spirituality. I have always loved spiritual literature, so I finished reading it within 3-4 days. Apart from being very interesting, the book contained the unparalleled writing style that radiated Dadaji's eloquence, as well as the heart-touching narratives of Ma's devotional journey to Sri Krishna, her beloved, Lord, and forever companion. In those days, I used to go to Olima, a quiet and meditative place in the wilderness owned by Vedanta Society. While having my lunch there one day, I was joined by an elderly woman who sat with her tray of lunch on the same table next to me. In this retreat house, if any talk took place between residents, it was expected to be spiritual. So, somewhere along the line, I ended up mentioning the Pilgrims of the Stars to her. She had heard of the book, had also met quite some time ago with Ma and Dadaji in California when they were sent by the Indian government to US on a cultural mission. She said to me, "But unfortunately, she is no longer with us. She departed some time ago." I didn't at all like what I had just heard. Why did she leave so soon? I had felt so connected to her while reading her memoirs and inwardly had hoped she might come to the US again. My guru had taken Mahasamadhi, final plunge in divine, in India during this period. It is the habit of life to make things happen without paying the slightest of attention to what we like or don't like. Nevertheless, one is obliged to check one's existence in the mirror of these happenings and realize one is, in fact, still breathing and walking about, hence still alive.
I had read in one of the mother's agendas how, in case of someone really suffering within, the mother of Pondicherry used to simply shift the tip of consciousness of the person from one side to another, and the result would be a livable and thriving life for that person. I was timidly hoping the same from Ma, though that I would verbalize it or ask directly for it was not my intention. However, after this latest news about her, my house of cards had fallen apart.
A few years down the road, without my knowledge, someone had given my phone number to a devotee of Sri Aurobindo who was living in LA. When he called me, I was very surprised at the synchronicity of it, as Sri Aurobindo and the mother had entered into my life on their own, without any aspiration for such a great fortune. Just about every night as I slept, I would have the privilege of being in the presence of either Sri Aurobindo or the mother as they visited me in my dreams. Naturally, my conversation with this unexpected caller revolved around these great personalities. As we continued to talk, I asked him, "Ma Indira Devi Ji at some point was in Pondicherry ashram as well, was she not?" "Yes, she was, but at present she lives in Pune," he replied. "Whenever I go to India, I also visit with her." I gasped in disbelief. "Are you telling me that she still lives in Pune? She is alive?" "Yes, of course. I went to Pune to see her just 2 years ago." I was thrilled beyond words, then asked him for her address. "Why do you need it?" he had questioned. I didn't lie, but didn't give him the truth of my intentions either. My father is a Krishna devotee, so I thought he may want to contact her at some point. He gave me the address.
That evening, when I sat for my meditation, my mind kept on reproducing Ma's photos published in the book. It was already decided by my inner being that I was going to take the trip to Pune. The only question remaining was when that would be. In my sleep that night, I saw a scene in which I stood outside a room and a voice, Ma's voice, was calling out to me saying, "Welcome, welcome." I left for Pune within a month.
In the early evening, as I was about to open the gate of the ashram, a woman appeared from the building next door. She asked, "Are you going in?" "Yes," I answered. "I do want to." At this time, usually Rani, the ashram dog, is unleashed. "Come with me. She knows me well." She led me to a large, covered inner courtyard of the ashram and asked me to sit down there as she would need to inform Ma first. After 15 or so minutes, she returned and said, "Come with me upstairs. Ma is calling you."
She began to climb a huge staircase. I was keeping some distance as I followed her. She turned a corner, and I saw her disappear into a room up front, my legs as if were wrapped with a loose string of hesitation. So I tarried outside the room. Then came a voice from within, loud and clear in English, saying, "Welcome, welcome, come on in." It was the same voice I had heard in my dream. There was no difference of even a nuance from the one I had heard previously. As I entered the room, I pranammed her, paid my respects in Indian style. She beckoned me to come up close and asked me, almost in a whisper, a few personal questions that I gladly answered, and then I was seated on the carpet, as is the custom in India, to sit down on the floor in the company of a great spiritual being. She very kindly, to make me feel comfortable, said on her own, "This is Kay. She comes here every day before the Aarti." There were just the two of us, Kay and I was gazing at Ma unblinkingly. What a great luck it was to be sitting before Ma Indira Devi Ji, the beloved of Krishna, and the protagonist of God knows how many supernatural incidences. All sincere aspirants of the spiritual paths have very special feelings for their own gurus. They have faith and a sense of total surrender for them. Ma's unparalleled faith in her own guru, her love for him, and surrender had a different hue to it than anyone I have seen or known. One day, as we sat around Ma, there were some visitors asking stupid questions about Dadaji. After their departure, Ma observed wistfully, "People don't remember Dadaji as much anymore." And she then got up to walk over to her personal room ahead. I don't know what made me blurt out suddenly, "But this world will remember Ma always." She halted in her tracks. Without missing a beat, she answered, "True, this world will remember Indira for her love for her guru." Ma and Dadaji, Dadaji and Ma. It has become impossible for us to imagine them separately. If you think of one, automatically the other one is there. While I may not have had the good fortune of meeting Dadaji in the flesh, but after seeing Ma and realizing her love and surrender for him, it had become inconceivable that Dadaji's powerful aura invisibly was not still around Ma. It was there, very much there, always. Whenever she looked for him, she knew he was present. Anytime she opened her palms and entreated to him in her choked voice, I had no doubt that his luminous blessings smiled, and one could almost see the light of her surrender disseminating from her. This light wanted to tell her that its luminosity was because of her. It was at her disposal to do whatever she would with it. In this world of ours today, so much of it is based upon this me and mine culture we have developed. Does anyone think or act unselfishly with love for someone else? Who remembers whom? Why should I surrender? And for what reason does it have to be done for anyone else other than myself? What is this unconditional love for your spiritual master? And why follow it? While these unpleasant truths of our era are present, so many do not understand that the guruhood is a divine principle that acts through some chosen beings. The more you surrender, the easier becomes your spiritual journey. Still, I must admit, the aspirants I met in Ma's ashram were raised under her blemishless guidance, must have imbibed some of her qualities. I'm sure that their love and devotion for Ma must have inscribed her in their hearts forever. Rumi has written, "Look not for us in any external monuments, tombs, or exalted places. Instead, find us in the hearts of our lovers." It had been 3 months since I had arrived in Pune, and my visa wouldn't allow me to stay much longer in India. The day had come when I was to leave and travel back home. That afternoon, as I sat quietly by Ma, she asked, "All ready to leave?" Gingerly I replied, "I have no desire to go back, Ma, but I have to go." It must have been my soul that spoke then. Ma got up from her seat. We always stood up whenever she did. She pulled me toward her and took me deep into her embrace. My head was resting on her heart, and my eyes closed automatically. In an instant, I felt this is something out of the ordinary I'm going through. A voice from within asked, "What do you feel?" I knew then and there I was in the clasp of divine purity. I felt it so concretely, without a shadow of a doubt. What I felt then was the truth of that moment. For several months prior to this, I had a persistent pain in my left arm. Although it was fairly severe, I didn't care to get it checked out or do anything about it, as there were other matters that required my attention first. At times, I couldn't hold even a pencil in that hand because of the pain. But in those moments that I was wrapped in Ma's arms, the little sweet voice within declared, "That you came in direct contact with the divine purity. As a proof, this pain of yours will disappear as soon as you reach Chicago." If you ask me to define the divine purity, there is no possible way to do so. The most persuasive words fall short of describing such experiences. You just know when it touches you. In meditation, we do get some experiences related to it, but this was different. It was the experience of the utmost divine purity I felt and knew with every fiber of my being. Sri Aurobindo has written somewhere that divine purity can be sensed in those who have divine influence in their psyches. The greater the place is given to divine in one's life, the purer the being becomes. External practices of purification, such as dips in the Ganges or other holy rivers, or external purification of any kind, does not create this sort of change in a human. Ma's entire being so utterly belonged to Sri Krishna that there was no room left for any other influence. As I arrived back in Chicago, automatically I stood up with everyone else and pulled out my carry-on from the compartment above and started to walk toward the customs. As I walked with the crowd, I stopped suddenly in my tracks. In a flash, I realized, my goodness, I have no pain in my left arm. What's more, I didn't have to ask anyone for help in getting my things from the overhead bin, which had been the case for some time now. In that moment, I knew afresh I was under the light of Ma's grace.